Well, the President is calling for patience during this time of the coronavirus pandemic lockdown, but one has to be clear that patience is a luxury when there's no food on your table. New research suggests that most South Africans do respect the lockdown, though, but experts are saying that that could change if the suffering continues. Let's explore this further, then bring in reporter Michael Marillier, who's live for us in the newsroom here in Hyde Park, Johannesburg. And Michael, you've been looking at the survey in more detail, and what are people saying exactly?
Yeah, really interesting findings that were released by the Human Sciences Research Council, Tembekile. And we're going to focus on a few graphics which just flesh that out a little bit for you. Firstly, respondents were asked, Tembekile, about how they perceived the risk of contracting the virus. And this is really interesting. Almost half said that they thought there was a low risk of actually getting COVID-19. Around about a third said a moderate chance, and 22% saying a high probability, Tembekile. So two aspects to this. One, it suggests that people were quite confident that the lockdown was actually achieving what it was supposed to. But on the flip side, Tembekile, experts are saying that there is a concern that people might be getting a little bit complacent as we head into phase 2 of this lockdown. Of course, the restrictions being eased a little bit as we enter lockdown level 4 on Friday morning. And if we just bring up our next graphic, another issue which I think is important, Tembekile, is the behavior during the first phase of the lockdown. So this survey showing that 12% of people were able to buy cigarettes during the lockdown. Of course, they weren't supposed to do that. It's not part of the regulations. And another 7% were able to drink with friends. So two problems there, Tembekile. Firstly, they shouldn't be buying alcohol in the first place. And secondly, they shouldn't be gathering in groups because that's against the regulations set out by the government. And the experts at the HSRC are saying, Tembekile, that we could see an increase in this type of behavior if people become complacent about the spread of the virus. Tembekile?
Some will say, Michael, blessed are those who are still able to go out and sneak into their friend's complex for that drink or to buy counterfeit cigarettes. But the reality is, while we deal with a health crisis here, economically, millions of South Africans are going hungry at this moment.
It's an absolutely crucial point. And let's just focus very quickly on the economic side of it, because the HSRC did deal with that, asking people how they were being affected from a financial point of view. More than 60%, Tembekile, saying it was difficult to pay bills during the beginning part of the lockdown. Almost 60% saying it was really tough just to put food on the table, bread and butter issues, quite literally, Tembekile. And then concerns about their future from a career perspective. 45% saying they're worried that they'll be able to keep their job as the lockdown continues. And really, Tembekile, the basic issue of survival coming front and center here. Let's focus on our final graphic, and we'll just put that really into perspective. Lockdown hunger is an issue. Respondents who said that they don't have money for food. Across the spectrum, Tembekile, almost 1 in 4 saying that they didn't actually have money to feed themselves at some point during the lockdown. And President Ramaphosa spoke about inequality during his address earlier today. That also coming to the fore. 55% in informal settlements saying that they did not have money for food at some point during the lockdown. And that number goes even higher as you head into the township. In fact, Tembekile, 66% of people in South African townships saying that they were on the verge of going hungry or were hungry during the lockdown because they simply could not afford to buy food. So really some desperate situations, and government will need to address that as we head into the next phase of this lockdown. Tembekile?
Michael Marillier, thank you so much for that, Michael, taking us through that latest research on how we as South Africans are coping with this lockdown.